So now that you understand how a building gets a clean water supply, let's talk about how it removes waste. Waste plumbing, again, is a separate system, and all waste will be drained from a building using gravity. So again, if you have something that's placed, a fixture that's placed below the sewer line, you're going to have to create some sort of mechanical way to get that waste to the sewer pipes. All sewer pipes in the city will run downhill. The underground sewer pipes can be made of clay tile, cast iron, copper, concrete, or some sort of plastic. Cast iron is typically used inside buildings. Because all pipes run downward at an angle, it may be difficult and expensive to add new plumbing fixtures into existing systems. So as an interior designer, you should be very careful about locating toilets. It's easiest to place a fixture on an exterior wall to allow for venting. But if the wall is not a 2x6 framing and it's CMU, then again you have to add drywall and it must be furred out to fit a 6-inch pipe. You should also try locating plumbing walls back to back so that they can use the same draining system. And in larger buildings, the plumbing layout should be decided as early as possible. If you're doing a lone fixture like an executive bath, then the pipes will have to run horizontally to the main stack. Here's an example of back-to-back plumbing system. So you have bathrooms that share this plumbing wall. That way they only need to use one waste stack. Cleanouts are distributed throughout the system between the fixtures and the outside sewer. They're also required at the base of each stack and at certain directional changes. Cleanouts must have access for the maintenance room and the plumber to work, which may affect the interior design of the space. Here's a great diagram of a building's drain, waste, and vent system. Now the soil stack is the waste pipe that runs from the toilets to the building drain. The waste stack is the pipe that runs from the other fixtures like the sinks and the showers to the building drain. And then the building drain connects to the municipal sewer or the septic tank. So here you can see this is the building drain, the waste stack coming from the sinks, the soil stacks coming from the toilets, and then it heads down here, all using gravity, to the outside. A vent is required. So you'll see these little pipes sometimes sticking out of the roofs. The vent is required to ease the pressure of what's happening inside these pipes. Traps are sometimes used in certain buildings to prevent any undesirable materials from entering the sewer. The city can only handle so much waste, and if you dump a lot of grease into the sewer, for example, that's very difficult to clean. So a lot of times restaurants will use what's called a grease trap, and it keeps the grease from entering the system, and then they pay for a service for someone to come and clean the trap regularly. Now here is that vent that we were talking about, and here's an example of a fixture trap. So it's this bottom part here. What happens is it's very similar to what you see here, where the clean water will flow underneath and then the grease or the soil or things will stay here. Now, every fixture must have a trap. Every fixture meaning every toilet, every sink, every shower system. Every fixture must have a trap, and every trap must have a vent. Some fixtures have traps already included. Traps are used in waste plumbing to block the gas from backing up into the building. And in older homes, some may have used a drum trap in the bathtub. And that's why maybe you have some drainage problems, because they have to be regularly cleaned out. Traps keep the gases out, but vents must be added to relieve the pressure in the pipes created by the gas. These run up, connect together at some point in the building, and then poke through the roof. And they keep the air pressure in the system even and give the gas an opportunity to escape outdoors. If a sink is located in an island, there's no vertical wall for the vent pipe to run up. So in this case, a waste line has to run to a sump or a collection container in another location and then is given a trap and a vent. Most of the solid waste comes from the kitchen, so having a recycling cabinet with possible easy outdoor access is a nice feature inside the space. Trash compactors are not really the greatest choice. They take up space, use energy, can emit odors, and require a grounded outlet. Garbage disposals must have adequate horsepower so they are more efficient, and also usually require a grounded outlet. An alternative to garbage disposals is the compost pile. It handles organic waste from the house and also yard waste, but no animal waste or meat, and can be contained in a self-contained unit. Once the garbage is decomposed, it can be used in the garden to fertilize the soil. So some of this pertains to you as an interior designer, but other parts of it are just for your information. Now, garbage bins located on the grounds of large buildings should be fenced to keep out animals and pests, and include recycling bins and possibly a compost pile for the landscaping. They should also allow easy access to the garbage trucks and consider the wind direction and noise control. There are 3 stages in the recycling process for large buildings. 1, you, the designer, will include 3 separate trash bins near the employee work area, one for paper, one for compostables or mixed paper, and one for trash. The custodian then collects the separated waste from the bins, and then the carts are dumped into the appropriate larger bins that are then picked up by the city. Now, there are many aspects of bathroom design that are controlled by ADA, the Americans with Disabilities Act. The ADA does not apply to private residences, but many designers do consider these guidelines for the future needs of their clients. Many apartment communities will design units for easy modification, like as you can see in this photo, placing extra blocking, these boards here, inside the walls so that grab bars can be installed down the road. It is the responsibility of the interior designer or the architect to select plumbing fixtures and then provide the specifications and rough-in information to the engineer or the contractor. Now, generally, for a residential application, you will be selecting those things. Maybe for more commercial applications or more industrial applications, the architect may. That's something you do need to clarify with your client and the architect at the time of the project. The technical word for toilet is water closet. It's notated on plans as WC. And toilets that we're familiar with have emerged around 1940 and initially held about 5 gallons of water. So when you press the lever here to flush, this flapper, this thing that covers this hole down here on the toilet, releases the water and it cleans the bowl. So it took about 5 gallons of water to, clean this bowl from all the stuff that was put in there. That's why there's so much water used in toilets. Toilets could have a round bowl or an elongated bowl. Generally, elongated bowls will extend up to 31 inches from the wall, while round toilets will extend about 28 inches from the wall. Here are some standard ADA dimensions. These are some dimensions that you're definitely going to need to become familiar with as a designer, especially because they're on the NCIDQ exam. And this is just showing you, this is in your book, and this is just showing you where grab bars should be installed, and how high toilet seats should be, how high the toilet paper should be, how far away from the wall, so on and so forth. So there's actually in your book, there's a plan view as well. But basically the grab bar that's on the wall side of the toilet has to be at least 12 inches from the wall and can be no longer than 42 inches long. The toilet paper here on center can be a maximum of 19 inches from the ground. The top of the toilet seat in an ADA situation should be about 18 inches. For a regular standard toilet, you're looking at about 15 inches. Now here you can see the toilets from the past used about 5 gallons. Now we have these great high efficiency toilets, and as an interior designer, you can encourage conservation and water savings through the fixtures that you select. Here's an example of a dual flush toilet from Kohler. This dual flush device that's located at the top of the toilet is used when you want to go number 1 or you want to go number 2. So this releases a smaller amount of water and this releases a larger amount of water. These are pretty common in Europe currently. Now, a urinal will take up less space than a water closet, about 18 inches of width, and can be substituted for one or more toilets required by code. One typically, however, must comply with ADA and be hung lower than the standard. Lavatories are often called sinks, but they're essentially bowls for collecting water in a bathroom. For sanitary purposes, the sink should be made of hard, smooth surface that's scrubbable, like porcelain, stainless steel, and any resin-based solid surface or glass. Other materials could be vitreous china, steel, cast iron, marble, fiberglass, acrylic, anything that's not going to be affected by water and grow bacteria. Now, there are several lavatory types. The most common is the drop-in you see here. And basically what that means is there's a hole placed in the counter and the sink is just dropped right in there. And it allows, the sink itself creates this rim. Another type is the pedestal sink, which I'm sure you're all familiar with. And then also the vessel sink. And this comes in a variety of different shapes. Even the sinks that you see that are, barely a bowl at all, those sometimes can be considered vessel sinks as well. So here are your typical lavatory faucets. The 4-inch center set model installs on the top of the lavatory fixture with mounting bolts that are passing through the holes that are set here at 4 inches apart. Most lavatory faucets are also furnished with this sort of pop-up drain assembly. The wide spread, or also called spread or spread centers, is a concealed design which has considerable popularity across the country. Manufacturers typically offer this in a 2-handle version, and it's popular because of its decorative look, and they can be installed with the handles positioned at wider intervals than this one will allow. This is also commonly furnished with this pop-up drain assembly. Now, rather than mounting the faucet on the sink, deck, or the counter, the wall mount then installs directly into the backsplash or the wall. Now, this isn't true for all public restrooms because this is a more recent requirement, but they should have self-closing faucets and aerators inside to conserve water and energy. The maximum flow rate should be about 1.9 liters per minute. If you ever go into a public bathroom and you're forced to turn the faucet off, it should feel a little bit awkward to you because that's not very common anymore. Today, almost all restrooms are required to have these self-closing faucets. Now, the term sink is reserved for utility sinks, so the kitchen, the laundry room, any sort of service station, and are also often made of vitreous china, cast iron, enameled steel. There are building codes that require the placement of sinks in certain areas, as well as ADA codes for access. And again, mostly that applies to commercial applications. Now, there are various types of sinks. This one is an undermount, so you can see that the sink is actually installed underneath the counter. This is really nice because it allows you to wipe things directly into the sink, and you don't have this, lip or this edge to catch, bacteria and things around this edge of the sink. It can be a more contemporary design, or it can be used in traditional applications. This is the self-rimming or drop-in sink, and here you can see the sink was literally dropped into the counter, and it creates its own rim. This is less expensive than the undermount sink, but also does give you a place that food and things could get caught. Then there's the farmhouse or apron front sink, and this can be used in a contemporary application or in a more traditional application. And then finally we have solid surface sinks. This is when you specify like a Corian material or something for the countertop, and the sink is actually molded from the same material. So this is essentially one solid piece. Now there are three important types of sink faucets to become familiar with. We have the 8-inch deck models, which were like the faucets that we saw for the bathroom, except they're a little bit longer. There's also the center mount, and this is really my favorite because it's so clean looking. And what's great is it only requires one hole be drilled into the countertop here. And then finally there's the concealed, and this was fairly common in the past, but I think it's been more usurped by this center mount option. But here, just like with the bathroom, it's technically a deck model. These various features may be connected underneath, but they're installed below the counter, so there's no plate up here. Now, bathtubs have evolved considerably in terms of makeup and design during recent years. Most new options in this category involve fiberglass and vacuum-formed acrylic. And while it may seem like there are a ton of options and models to contend with, most fall into one of a few basic categories based on installation. So here's a corner style tub where you've got two sides of the tub that fit into the corner, and then some sort of apron or front deck is required here to cover this front portion that's exposed. This would be a prefabricated piece that's then dropped into sort of a custom designed deck. Then sunken tubs, where the tub is literally sunk in the floor. This you can see is a self-rimming model. Built-in designs here, so we've got prefabricated tub shells that are again installed or dropped into a custom designed or built-in deck. And then this is actually a bathroom that I designed in Scottsdale, and here you can see that we have this sort of custom deck that's created. The front has been designed to match the cabinetry, and the wall's been tiled with a really great limestone corduroy tile, and the tub has really nice clean edges. But the tub itself was specified, prefabricated, and then dropped into this sort of custom outfit. Some clients may not want to go through the expense of ripping out the old tub, so they do have tub refinishing options. This can also be called reglazing or resurfacing, and is essentially a process in which a coating is applied over a surface like enamel, porcelain, or fiberglass. Application of porcelain is a process in which glass is fused onto metal at high temperatures, and this cannot be done in your home. So some companies will use an acrylic urethane top coat. The process is basically started by removing the old caulking from around the tub, so anything that's been, used here to seal the edges, and then thoroughly cleaning the surface. Surfaces that have been painted or glazed before will have to chemically and mechanically be stripped. Then after the tub is clean and dry and all the cracks and chips are repaired, the surface is then coated. Shower heads come in two types. You have the regular stationary shower head, which we're all familiar with, and then the detachable handheld shower heads. These are more expensive, but much more versatile, and they're required in ADA situations so that someone sitting on a bench or a chair can bathe. And this is actually a pretty standard fixture in Europe. I actually, in my bathroom in Greece, in my first place before I knew Dimitri, this is what we had, and there was no hook on the wall. So I actually had to hold it the entire time I took a shower. Now here's an example of a roll-in shower. There are two types of ADA showers. One is a roll-in here where you can see that there's no transition strip, or there's no height here to roll into the shower, and then the shower will kind of lean down towards this drain. This is a really cool wheelchair that's been fixed so that someone can take a shower in it, and I imagine they just transfer from their regular chair into this one. The other type is what's called a transfer shower, and so here you can see she can wheel her chair around and then just slide over and sit on this bench, and she's got the handheld shower head so that she can bathe herself. Now showers come in custom designed versions or prefabricated versions like tubs, and how a prefab shower is constructed is it could just be a pan where the contractor will purchase a prefab shower pan that you perhaps selected, and then build the wall around it and tile up the sides. They also have fiberglass prefab showers that contain walls and things. And here's an example of one. This whole unit here, and this is probably what you're more used to. This whole tub shower unit is an example of a prefab design. And this is a pretty decent one, you know, not something you would want to put maybe in a master bathroom, but definitely something that you could put in a guest bathroom. Here's the custom shower next to the tub I showed you at this home in Scottsdale. So this was completely custom designed. It's a steam shower, so you can see that this glass door has been completely sealed, and there was a bench added, and not only is there a detachable shower head and 2 standard shower heads, but there's also a rain shower head above. All right, so in the next video, I'm going to go over several things I want you to consider when designing a bathroom. But first, I'd like you to study the figures, figures 8:17, 8:18, and 8:19, and become a little bit familiar with standard bath dimensions, and then you can watch the next video. It's just going to be a few minutes long.